Welcome to Life Stories, where love sometimes knocks on the wrong door and changes everything. What if the person you were supposed to meet never showed up, but someone else did? Someone with wild-haired twins, spaghetti stains on his shirt, and a secret so big it could destroy everything you've built. This isn't just another love story. It's about the moment when everything goes wrong and somehow feels more right than anything before. It's about trust, heartbreak, and what it means to truly see someone, not for their titles, not for their past, but for the quiet way they hold broken things together. Stay with us, because what starts at the wrong table becomes a story you'll never forget. Now, picture this: a window table, 2 crayon-covered booster seats, and one mistake that rewrites an entire life. Gabe Whitaker never thought he'd lie to a stranger in a restaurant, but tonight, he was doing exactly that. The upscale Italian place on Riverstone Avenue smelled like truffle oil and something far more expensive than he was pretending to be. Gabe adjusted the baby blue headband, slipping from Emmy's curls as she squirmed in his lap. Across from him, Ellie pouted, her small fingers curling tightly around a pink bunny that had been stitched so many times it looked like patchwork hope. The hostess raised an eyebrow, glancing at the mismatched booster seats and the twin chaos seated at table 5. "You brought your kids to a blind date?" she asked, half whisper, half judgment. Gabe smiled, calm but hollow. "It's not really a date." He didn't correct her because it wasn't entirely false. The woman from the dating app, Single Mom 86, had bailed an hour ago, her final message reading, "Sorry, can't date a broke dad of 2. Good luck." Fair. She had no idea the man with cereal stains on his jeans and a 2009 Honda Civic in the parking lot was actually Gabe Whitaker, tech mogul, CEO of Halcyon Technologies and one of Forbes' 50 most powerful under 40. But tonight, that man was nowhere to be seen. No security detail, no tailored Tom Ford suit. Just a dad with tired eyes and 2 little girls who believed ketchup was a food group. He was about to pack up and go when the bell above the front door chimed. She walked in like she didn't belong anywhere, but wasn't trying to hide it. Messy ponytail, canvas tote slung over her shoulder, and a paperback clutched like armor. She scanned the room, then hesitated when she saw them. Her smile was hesitant, a little crooked. "Hi, I'm Lucy. Sorry I'm late. The bus broke down. Twice." Gabe blinked. She wasn't the woman he was supposed to meet. That much was obvious, but she sat down anyway. "I saw the note," she said, pointing to her phone. "Window table, with kids. I figured this must be it." He should have told her, should have said something like, "You have the wrong guy," or "This isn't your date." But he didn't. Maybe it was the way Ellie offered her a crayon. Maybe it was the way Lucy smiled at Emmy like she'd met her before in a better dream. Maybe Gabe just didn't want to be alone for once. Not as Gabe the CEO, or Gabe the widower, or Gabe the man everyone assumes has it all, but as someone who hadn't felt seen in a very long time. They ordered spaghetti because the girls were obsessed. Lucy drew a wobbly cat on a napkin and made the girls giggle so hard orange juice shot out of Emmy's nose. She didn't flinch, just laughed and wiped it up like she'd done it 1,000 times. She never asked about Gabe's job, never mentioned his name. When Ellie told her about the imaginary frog living under their couch, she nodded solemnly and asked what it ate. When Emmy offered her a breadstick shaped vaguely like the state of Texas, she broke it in half and shared it. Halfway through the meal, the check arrived early. Gabe's hand instinctively moved to his back pocket, then froze. His wallet wasn't there. These weren't even his jeans. For a moment, the illusion shattered. His breath caught. Lucy saw. She didn't flinch. She just slid out a worn leather card holder, handed it to the server, and said, "It's on me. I've had worse first dates." She brushed her hair back, then looked at Gabe, not with pity, not with curiosity, but with quiet kindness. "You didn't have to," he murmured. "I wanted to. You looked like someone who needed a little grace tonight." Gabe didn't know what to say to that. He wasn't used to being seen without the gleam of success behind him. But she looked past all of it, past the stains, the silence, the fumbling hands trying to manage booster seats and grief. She saw him. After dinner, she refused his offer of a ride. I like walking. Helps me sort things out. She bent and kissed Ellie's forehead. Thanks for the cat, artist. She waved once and stepped into the night, disappearing under the glow of the street lamp like a ghost he hadn't realized he was waiting for. It was only after he buckled the girls into their car seats and turned on the ignition that he saw it. The napkin. Emmy had tucked it into his jacket pocket. On it, beneath Lucy's crooked cat, were the words, "This one has a heart." 4 days passed, and Gabe couldn't stop thinking about her. He didn't know her last name, didn't even know if she thought he was a complete fraud. But he remembered something she'd said before dessert. I work at the Maple Grove Library, the one with the red doors. That was all he had. So on Saturday morning, he packed Ellie and Emmy into the Civic again and drove. The red doors were real. Inside, the scent of old books and lemon polish filled the air. Children clustered in a corner, their faces tilted toward a woman with a worn copy of The Bear Who Lost His Hat. Her voice rose theatrically. Gabe saw Lucy before she saw him. She was laughing, animated, alive. He stepped into the room, heart pounding. Ellie gasped. "It's her!" Emmy squealed and ran toward her. Lucy froze. Her eyes met his. Everything stilled. She closed the book. 5-minute break, kiddos? The kids groaned. She stood slowly, her voice guarded. "You found me." Gabe nodded, voice low. "I remembered the red doors." Lucy crossed her arms. "You weren't my date that night." "No, I wasn't." "So why did you stay?" He looked at her for a long time. "Because you didn't see me as someone to escape. You saw me." He hesitated, and I didn't want that moment to end. She glanced at the girls, then back at him. Her eyes weren't cold, but they weren't open either. "Do you lie to every woman you meet?" "No, just the ones who walk in by accident and turn everything upside down." She exhaled slowly. "What are you hiding, Gabe?" He paused, then leaned closer, his voice barely a whisper. "My real name is on a building. My net worth has its own Wikipedia page, but none of that matters. What matters is what happened at that table. The laughter, the mess, the moment you paid the bill for a man you thought had nothing. That moment was real." She said nothing, but her hand trembled slightly. Then Ellie walked over and tugged at Lucy's sleeve, holding out a new drawing, this time 3 stick figures labeled "Us" under a sky full of hearts. Lucy blinked, her defenses cracked, and Gabe saw it, the flicker of something unspoken, something deep. What do we risk when we finally let someone see the parts of us we've hidden the longest? Could love be real when it starts from a lie but grows into truth? As Lucy's fingers brushed over the crayon hearts, a shadow moved outside the library window, followed by the unmistakable flash of a camera lens. The next chapter begins when the world finds out who Gabe Whitaker really is and what it's about to cost her. The photo hit the internet before Gabe even buckled Ellie into her car seat. A blurry long lens shot taken through the children's section window at Maple Grove Library. Lucy, mid-laugh, her hand gently resting on Emmy's head as she leaned into her shoulder. The caption underneath read, "Mystery woman with tech billionaire's twins, new romance or scandal." Within hours, Lucy Harper's quiet life unraveled. By dinner time, reporters were camping outside her apartment, shouting questions through the intercom. Her inbox flooded with messages, some cruel, some curious, none kind. By midnight, the story had trended globally, not about Gabe's past or his company, but her tote bag, her shoes, her smile, her existence. The next morning, Lucy sat motionless at the foot of her bed, phone buzzing endlessly in her lap. Headlines screamed about her like she was a politician or a celebrity mistress, not a librarian who once taught ESL classes on weekends and still read cookbooks for fun. She hadn't even kissed him. At the library, the director's face was pale, voice stiff. "We've had some funding concerns. One of our donors threatened to pull major support. They're citing the media disruption." Lucy blinked. "I haven't done anything wrong." "I know," he said, looking anywhere but her eyes. "But they don't care. They care about optics." When she walked out that afternoon, a box of her belongings pressed to her chest, children stared in confusion, and a few staff whispered too loudly. Her key card no longer worked. By the time Gabe showed up at her door, she hadn't slept in 24 hours. He looked wrecked. His coat was unbuttoned, his hair wine-tossed, and his usually unreadable face was raw with something that looked like shame. I had no idea they'd find you, he said quietly. I didn't tell anyone. I didn't even think. You didn't have to think, Lucy cut in, arms folded over herself like armor. You're not followed like normal people, Gabe. You're tracked, watched. The world has an interest in you like you're a damn stock ticker. She didn't invite him in. Inside the apartment, Emmy's drawing still clung to the fridge with a magnet shaped like a daisy. I've been dragged through headlines before, Gabe said. But this, what they're doing to you, it's not okay. Let me fix it. Her voice broke. You can't fix it. You can throw money at it, maybe spin a press release, but you can't take it back. I lost my job, my quiet, and you, her voice trembled. You didn't even tell me your last name. You let me sit there and draw cats with your daughters and pay for dinner like I was helping some sweet broke dad when you... God, Gabe, you could buy the entire restaurant. I didn't lie. You didn't tell the truth. Her hands curled into fists. You gave me the version of you that made you feel safe, but you didn't give me you. The words lingered in the air between them, heavy and sharp. He looked down. I wanted to be seen as a person, not a paycheck. I didn't want to watch your eyes change when you realized who I was. I didn't want you to pull away. You still made the choice for me. Lucy's voice cracked now, but she didn't stop. And now I'm the one who has to deal with the fallout. My name is in headlines. They're digging up where I went to college, how much I make. There are strangers taking pictures through my blinds, Gabe. I'm sorry. She didn't say anything. He stepped forward, quietly. The girls ask about you every night. Ellie made you another drawing. Emmy can't understand why you're not there when they read their bedtime stories. I told them you just needed time. Lucy's lips trembled, but she didn't move. Tell me what you need, he said softly. Tell me how I can make it right. She looked at him then, really looked, and what he saw in her expression made his chest ache. There was no anger left, only devastation. I need to breathe again. I need the noise to stop. I need to not be a story. He nodded slowly, swallowing the thick lump in his throat. Then I'll go. He turned, walked down the hallway, didn't look back. Inside, Lucy dropped the box of library books to the floor and sank down beside them, pressing her forehead to her knees. She didn't cry. She just sat in the quiet, letting it settle around her like dust. All her life she had built herself on simplicity, on books and honesty and late-night tea and silence. And now, the entire world had shoved its face against the glass of her life, and she couldn't breathe. Across town, Gabe stood in his garage, staring at the napkin drawing Ellie had left on the dashboard. The cat with crooked whiskers and the words, "This one has a heart." He folded it gently and slid it into the glove box beside a second napkin, one with the words, "We miss you, Miss Lucy." And for the first time in years, Gabe Whitaker, founder of billion-dollar companies, buyer of silence, destroyer of distractions, had no idea what to do. How do you rebuild trust when the very foundation of your connection is shattered? Can love survive in the spotlight, or does it only live in the quiet places we lose when the world looks in? 3 days later, a new knock echoed at Lucy's door, and this time it wasn't Gabe. It was 2 tiny fists, and the sound they made would change everything. Keep reading to discover what happens when the smallest hands carry the biggest truths. The knock was soft at first, almost uncertain, like the sound of hesitation wrapped in hope. Lucy stayed frozen in the hallway, her hand inches from the doorknob, breath caught somewhere between fear and longing. Another knock came, quieter this time, but closer to the ground, and then she heard it, giggling, small voices whispering. She opened the door slowly. There, standing shoulder to shoulder, were Ellie and Emmy, each holding up a crayon drawing as if it were a shield. Emmy said, "We bring our hearts." Ellie simply read, "Come back." They stood motionless, arms open, waiting. No cameras, no headlines, no Gabe. Just 2 little girls who had lost something they didn't know how to name. Lucy fell to her knees, arms flung open as the girls collapsed into her with the kind of trust that doesn't question. She clutched them tightly, burying her face in their hair, breathing in the smell of crayons and peanut butter and the unmistakable scent of home. "I missed you so much," she whispered, voice cracking. Gabe appeared only after they had stopped crying. He stood at the bottom of the steps, not daring to approach until Lucy looked up, her eyes red-rimmed, face streaked with quiet joy. She nodded once. He walked up slowly, stopping a few feet away. I didn't come with apologies. You've had enough of those, he said, voice low, raw. I came with them because they asked for you every night, because you never stopped being part of their world, even when you disappeared from mine. Lucy stood, still holding the girl's hands. You should have told me everything from the start. I know. She studied him for a long time. He looked older, not in age, but in weight, like the truth had finally caught up with him. And yet, behind all of that, there was something else. Something steadier. I'm not asking you to choose anything today, he said. Not me, not us. Just come be where you're already loved. Her voice was quiet. I'm scared. He stepped forward, eyes steady. So am I. She looked at the girls, at the napkin drawing still taped to her door, at the man she had seen mop up juice spills and button tiny cardigans and speak with a sincerity that no fortune could buy. That night, Lucy didn't pack a suitcase. She just held hands, small ones and big, and followed them into something unfamiliar. Weeks passed. Slowly, life grew again, not loud, but alive. Lucy returned to the cottage by the lake, this time not as a guest, but as a presence. She read stories by flashlight during thunderstorms. She taught the girls how to draw faces with eyebrows that actually matched. She baked terrible cookies that everyone insisted were amazing while secretly throwing half away. Gabe didn't ask her to move in. He didn't buy her a car or renovate a wing. Instead, he built bookshelves by hand, crooked and uneven, and filled them with everything she had loved since she was 5. She never said thank you. She just sat on the floor, ran her fingers across the spines, and whispered the titles under her breath like old songs. They launched the Story Nest, a mobile reading program that brought books to shelters and schools that couldn't afford them. Lucy curated the stories. Gabe handled the logistics. The girls named the van Big Bookie. It was ridiculous. It stuck. One evening, after reading Corduroy to a room full of sleepy-eyed kids at a community center, Lucy sat beside Gabe in the van as they packed up the bins. She turned to him, suddenly quiet. I don't want to be someone who's famous for who she dated. He glanced over. You're not. I want to be known for what I gave. You already are. She looked at him, really looked. I thought I lost everything the night the headlines broke, but it turns out that was just the noise falling away. A few months later, on a spring afternoon so still it felt like time paused, Gabe, Ellie, and Emmy surprised her with a picnic at the lakeside cottage. The girls handed her a box wrapped in napkins. Inside was a ring made of soft twine and colorful beads, uneven, imperfect, and utterly precious. We made it, Emmy whispered. For you. Gabe knelt beside her, his voice shaking. I spent most of my life thinking I'd only ever be loved for what I had. But then came the wrong table, 2 wild little hearts, and a woman who never looked at my wallet once. I'm not asking you for a ceremony or a title. Just be the soul of this home. Lucy slipped the ring onto her finger. She didn't cry. She smiled. We've been a family for a while, she said. You're just catching up. But even happy endings carry shadows. 6 weeks later, Lucy stood outside a small hospital room, clutching a folded drawing from Emmy. Gabe was inside with his mother, who had collapsed suddenly from a stroke. The girls were home, confused, waiting. Lucy stepped inside without knocking. Gabe sat beside the bed, unmoving. She's not waking up, he said. Lucy put her hand on his shoulder. Then we wait, together. Later that night, when his mother passed, Gabe finally cried, not for the empire he had built, but for the woman who raised him, for the simplicity he had once run from, and for the unexpected grace of a librarian who had walked into the wrong dinner and never left. At the funeral, it rained softly. Lucy held Emmy in one arm, Ellie in the other, and Gabe stood beside them, not as a headline or a mogul, but as a son, a father, a man undone and reborn by love that had no script. And when they got home that night, drenched and tired, Lucy pulled out a new notebook, handed it to the girls, and said, "Let's start the next chapter." What part of this story touched your heart the most? Share your feelings in the comments. Type 100 if you love this story. Where are you watching from? Let us know your country. Share this story with someone who believes in love, healing, and second chances. Thank you for watching Life Stories.